She wasn't looking for a mansion. All she wanted was a place to start over, quiet, affordable, and far from everything that reminded her of the life she'd lost. When the listing appeared online, it felt almost unreal. A massive estate sitting on the edge of a forgotten town, priced lower than a one-bedroom apartment. The photos were grainy, the details vague, but something about it drew her in. It felt waiting. The realtor hadn't said much, only that the property had been empty for years. The last owners disappeared, he muttered, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Family of 4. Tragic story. She thought he was just trying to scare her. Small towns always had stories like that. Still, as her car pulled up the long, overgrown driveway, her stomach tightened. The mansion rose from the mist like a memory. Tall, grey, and impossibly still. Its windows were blind with dust, its garden swallowed by weeds. The iron gates had rusted into shapes that looked almost like faces when the light hit them. She stepped out, gravel crunching beneath her shoes, the air colder than it should have been. For a moment, she thought she saw someone in the upstairs window, just a flicker of movement, but when she blinked, it was gone. Inside, the silence was heavier than air. Each step she took sent echoes down the empty halls. The wallpaper peeled in long, curling strips, the chandeliers hung low with cobwebs. The house smelled of rain and dust, old wood, and something faintly metallic. Still, beneath all the decay, there was beauty. Marble floors, painted ceilings, rooms large enough to get lost in. She brushed her fingers along a piano in the corner, its keys yellowed with age. When she lifted her hand, a single note played, soft, low, deliberate. She froze. The air shifted slightly, like the house had exhaled. Her breath caught in her throat. She turned slowly, scanning the empty hall behind her. Nothing moved. And yet, from somewhere deep inside the mansion, another note followed. Low, distant, like someone was playing her in. She stood frozen by the piano, her pulse thudding in her ears. The sound had come from somewhere deeper in the house, faint but unmistakable. She waited, listening, but the silence swallowed everything again. Maybe it was the wind, she told herself. Or a draft. Old houses made noises all the time. Still, the air felt different now, charged with something she couldn't name. She forced herself to keep moving. The house was enormous, its hallways stretching like veins through shadow and dust. Each door she opened revealed a different kind of decay. Rooms filled with covered furniture, cracked mirrors, and picture frames that still clung stubbornly to the walls. In one, the glass had shattered, slicing through the painted smile of a little girl in an old family portrait. The same girl appeared in another photo on the mantel, her eyes bright, her dress white, standing beside her parents and a younger brother. The plaque beneath it read, *The Holloway family, 2007. *. She whispered the name aloud, her voice sounding small in the cavernous room. Holloway. It tickled something in her memory, though she couldn't place it. She turned toward a bookshelf nearby, running her hand along the spines of crumbling books. One of them, a thick leather-bound journal, fell open at her touch. The pages were filled with elegant handwriting, some words blurred by water stains. The last entry was dated the same year as the photo. It ended mid-sentence. He said the house is waking up again. I can hear the, her breath caught. The rest of the line was smeared into nothing. She closed the book quickly and set it back, her heartbeat quickening. The air grew colder the further she explored. In the kitchen, a layer of dust coated everything except a single teacup left in the sink. It looked recent, too recent. She frowned, running her finger over the rim. Clean. A thin chill crept down her spine. Someone had been here. She moved toward the back of the house, where a door led to the conservatory. The glass ceiling above was fractured but still intact, letting streaks of dying sunlight spill across the room. Dead plants filled cracked pots, their brittle leaves whispering with the wind. The floor was littered with dried petals, old gardening tools, and something else, footprints. Small, faint, and leading to a door at the far end. She followed them slowly. The air smelled of soil and something else, old perfume, maybe. The doorknob was rusted, but it turned easily in her hand. Beyond it was a narrow staircase leading upward. She hesitated at the bottom, her flashlight flickering weakly. She could almost feel the weight of the house above her, pressing down. Still, curiosity pulled her forward. The stairs creaked under her weight, each step groaning like a warning. At the top, She found herself in a narrow hallway lined with faded wallpaper and broken picture frames. One door stood slightly ajar. The light inside flickered, though she hadn't turned on any power. She pushed it open slowly. The room was small, a child's bedroom. Dusty toys sat neatly on a shelf, their plastic faces cracked and faded. A bed with torn sheets stood by the wall, and above it, painted in uneven strokes, were the words "stay quiet" in faded red. Her stomach twisted. The letters were smeared, old but still sharp against the peeling wallpaper. She stepped closer, the floorboards groaning beneath her feet. On the bedside table lay a small music box, shaped like a carousel. The paint had chipped away, but when she touched it, it began to turn on its own. The melody was faint, eerie, out of tune, the same note she'd heard from the piano downstairs. She backed away slowly, her breath shaking. Then, from behind her, came the sound of a door closing. Soft. Precise. She spun around, heart pounding, but the hallway was empty. The air grew heavy again, pressing against her ears until she could hear nothing but her pulse. She whispered, "Hello." No answer. Only silence. Her flashlight flickered again, then went out completely. For a heartbeat, the room was pitch black. When the light sputtered back to life, the words on the wall were gone, replaced by something new. Scrawled unevenly across the paint, as if freshly written, were 3 words that made her knees weaken. "Why did you come?" Her fingers trembled so badly she almost dropped the light. The door behind her slammed shut with a deafening crack, and the music box stopped mid-note. Dust rained from the ceiling. She ran to the door, pulling at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Then, from the other side, she heard it, the sound of soft footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Climbing the stairs toward her. She backed into the corner, gripping the flashlight like a weapon. The steps grew louder until they stopped just outside the door. The handle turned once, twice, then stopped. A whisper drifted through the keyhole, low, almost gentle. "You shouldn't have come back." Her breath hitched. The handle turned again, harder this time, but she threw her weight against the door, holding it shut. Then, as suddenly as it started, the noise stopped. The house fell silent again, so quiet it felt wrong. She waited, frozen, counting the seconds. When she finally dared to open the door, the hallway was empty. But on the floor just outside lay the family photograph she'd seen downstairs, the Holloways, smiling faintly. Except now, there was someone new standing in the back. Her. Her hands trembled as she stared at the photograph on the floor. The faces looked back at her, frozen smiles hiding something she couldn't quite name. Her reflection glimmered faintly in the cracked glass, and for a second, she thought the eyes in the picture moved, just a flicker, like someone blinking behind the frame. She stumbled backward, her heart hammering, the air thick with dust and something older, something that felt alive. She needed to breathe. She rushed downstairs, every creak of the staircase echoing like footsteps chasing her. The piano in the corner stood silent again, the single note she'd heard earlier now trapped in her memory. She wanted to leave, just grab her keys and drive away, but something stopped her. Curiosity, or maybe that same invisible pull that had drawn her here in the first place. The house wanted to be seen. She moved through the main hall, her flashlight beam sliding over faded wallpaper and torn curtains. A trail of dustless footprints led toward a large double door she hadn't noticed before. The handles were brass, tarnished but still elegant, shaped like twisted vines. She hesitated, then pushed. The door opened with a deep groan, revealing a long dining hall. The room looked untouched, like time itself had stopped. A grand table sat in the center, still set for dinner. Plates, glasses, silver cutlery, everything was exactly where it should be. Even the candles had melted halfway, as if the family had just stepped out and never returned. The chandelier above swayed slightly though the air was still. She walked slowly around the table, her shoes crunching over shattered glass. A half-empty wine bottle rested by one chair, the dark liquid long dried into the wood. On the far end, a place setting stood out, the silverware tarnished black, the glass cracked. The name card, yellowed and bent, read *Eleanor Holloway. She whispered the name aloud. It sounded almost familiar, like something she'd heard long ago. Her flashlight caught something glinting beneath one of the chairs, a small silver locket, coated in dust. She knelt to pick it up. Inside was a photograph, the same family again. The same faces. Except this time, there was a fifth person standing behind them. A woman in dark clothing, her face turned slightly, her features blurred. She wasn't in any of the other photos. A chill ran down her spine. She turned the locket over. On the back, faintly engraved, were the words, "Asterisk for the one who stays." Asterisk she stood, her breath uneven. The chandelier above her flickered once, then again, though there was no power. The table creaked softly, like something shifting its weight. Then came the sound, faint but clear. A whisper, brushing against her ear. "Welcome home." She spun around, but the room was empty. The whisper had been close, too close. She grabbed the locket, shoving it into her pocket, and back toward the door. The air felt heavier now, pressing against her chest. Each breath came harder, as if the house itself was closing in. Her flashlight flickered again. For a brief second, she saw movement at the edge of the table, a shadow, long and thin, slipping between the chairs. The sound of soft footsteps followed, slow and deliberate, circling her. She held her breath, frozen. The shadow passed the far wall, then vanished completely. The silence returned, thick and suffocating. She turned to leave, but something caught her attention near the far end of the table, a door partially hidden behind a curtain. It was smaller than the others, barely wide enough for one person. The frame looked newer than the rest of the room. She stepped closer, brushing aside the fabric. There were scratch marks around the edges, deep, desperate. She pulled at the handle. It resisted at first, then opened with a heavy click. Cold air poured out, smelling of damp stone and rust. A narrow passage stretched beyond, disappearing into darkness. A set of stairs descended into the ground. Her pulse quickened. The logical part of her screamed to stop, to walk away. But her curiosity, or maybe something deeper, wouldn't let her. She shined her flashlight into the passage. The beam barely reached the bottom, but what she saw made her skin crawl. There were handprints along the wall, dozens of them. Small, large, smeared into the dust like people had clawed their way out. She swallowed hard, her hand tightening around the flashlight. Somewhere deep below, water dripped steadily, echoing through the tunnel. The sound reminded her of breathing, slow, wet, alive. She took one step down, then another. The stairs groaned beneath her. As she reached the bottom, her light caught something metallic, a door. Heavy, bolted shut, but covered in words scratched violently into the surface. Her breath fogged in the cold air as she read them one by one. Asterisk, don't open it. Asterisk, asterisk, he's still here. Asterisk, asterisk, we can't leave. Asterisk, her flashlight trembled in her hand. Then, faintly, from behind the metal door came a sound. A single, drawn-out knock. Slow, hollow, waiting. She stumbled back from the metal door, her flashlight shaking as the echo of that single knock faded into the dark. For a few seconds, there was nothing, no sound, no movement, only the cold weight of air pressing against her chest. Her breath came in shallow bursts. She whispered to herself, "It's just the pipes, just the house settling." But deep down, she didn't believe it. Her light flickered again, and the beam caught something etched deeper into the door, almost invisible beneath the rust. She crouched, brushing away layers of grime. The letters were faint but clear enough to read. Asterisk E. Holloway, do not enter. Asterisk, her throat went dry. That was the same name from the table upstairs. The mother. She stood up quickly, gripping the flashlight tighter. A chill wind passed through the tunnel, even though there shouldn't have been any air movement this far below ground. The faint smell of old smoke drifted by, followed by something else, perfume. Soft, floral, and familiar. The same scent she'd noticed upstairs in the child's room. Then, softly, the knocking started again. 3 slow beats this time. Each one heavier, deeper. It didn't sound random anymore. It sounded like someone, or something, trying to answer her. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she took a step closer. The metal door was ice cold, so cold that frost formed where her fingers brushed it. She leaned in slightly, her ear almost against the steel. Nothing. Then, a whisper came from the other side, faint, drawn out, impossible to mistake for wind. "Please, open it." She jerked back, her spine hitting the wall behind her. Her flashlight beam darted wildly across the tunnel. The air around her felt heavier now, the pressure almost unbearable. She took a shaky breath and whispered, "Who's there?" No response. Just the slow, rhythmic dripping of water. Then the whisper came again, closer this time. "Please, let us out." Her stomach twisted. The voice was soft, desperate, almost human. She wanted to run, to leave that place and never look back. But another sound stopped her, the faint echo of a child's laughter. It came from somewhere down the tunnel behind her, light and innocent, but completely wrong in the silence. She turned the flashlight that way, the beam trembling across the stone walls. "Hello," she called out. The laughter stopped. The sound of bare feet on the wet floor replaced it, soft, quick steps moving toward her. Panic surged through her. She spun back to the metal door, but it was different now. The words scratched into it, "don't open it, were gone. Instead, in fresh, wet streaks, a new message had appeared. "She's behind you." Her blood ran cold. She turned slowly, the light shaking in her hand. For a moment, the tunnel behind her looked empty, just darkness, the kind that eats the light. Then, through the shadows, she saw the faint outline of a small figure standing at the base of the stairs. A little girl. Her hair was matted, her dress torn and soaked through. She was facing the ground, her hands hanging limp at her sides. The woman's voice broke as she whispered, Are you okay?" The girl lifted her head. Her eyes caught the beam of the flashlight, empty, hollow, reflecting no light at all. Her mouth moved, but the sound that came out wasn't her voice. It was a chorus, dozens of whispers layered together, echoing off the stone walls. "He's waiting." The flashlight flickered violently, the beam slicing across the tunnel walls in stuttering flashes. For an instant, she saw more shapes moving in the darkness, shadows stretching, twisting, crawling toward her. The little girl vanished as the light sputtered out completely. She ran, blindly, stumbling, her hands scraping against the cold stone as she searched for the stairs. The air was thick, her lungs burning with every breath. The whispers chased her, growing louder, overlapping voices calling her name, pleading, screaming. She found the steps by instinct and climbed, her feet slipping on the damp stone. When she reached the top, she slammed the door shut behind her and collapsed against it, gasping for air. The mansion above was silent again, but the quiet was worse than the noise. The wood beneath her palms pulsed faintly, like something alive was pressing against the other side. She stumbled into the main hall, her flashlight barely holding on. The piano in the corner played a single note, sharp and sudden. She froze. Then another note followed. And another. The same haunting melody she'd heard before, the one from the music box, from the piano, from the tunnels below. Her legs felt weak as she stepped closer. The keys pressed down one by one, though no one sat on the bench. The air shimmered faintly above it, like heat rising from the ground. She whispered, "Stop it," her voice trembling. But the melody continued, faster now, almost frantic. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The silence that followed was unbearable. Something shifted above her. She looked up and froze. Hanging from the chandelier was a photograph, the same one she'd found in the hallway. It swung gently, the metal frame clinking against the glass. She reached up, grabbing it by the edge. It was the Holloway family again, but now, every face in the picture had been replaced by hers. She dropped the photograph, the frame shattering against the marble floor. The sound echoed through the vast hall, bouncing off the cracked walls until it faded into silence. Her pulse thudded in her ears. Every instinct told her to run, to leave this house and never look back, but her body wouldn't move. It was as if the mansion itself was holding her still, waiting. The chandelier above her creaked softly, the chain straining as though under invisible weight. The air turned cold, sharp, biting, and her breath came out in clouds. The piano struck a single note again. Then another. Slow, deliberate, each key pressed by unseen hands. She backed away, her heart pounding, her eyes scanning the empty room. The shadows along the walls seemed to shift, crawling upward like living things. Her flashlight sputtered once, then died completely. The room plunged into darkness. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers trembling so badly she nearly dropped it. When the screen finally lit up, the glow revealed something new. Faint footprints on the dusty floor, leading away from her and toward the grand staircase. Small, bare footprints, the same size as a child's. She followed them, her steps hesitant, her breath shallow. The prints glistened faintly, wet and fresh. They stopped halfway up the stairs, but the sound of movement continued above her, soft, dragging steps crossing the hallway. She swallowed hard and whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. Only the slow creak of floorboards above her. She climbed the rest of the way, each step groaning under her weight. The upper hallway stretched before her, lined with portraits whose eyes seemed to follow her as she passed. At the end of the hall, a door stood open, the child's room. The faint glow of the broken music box flickered inside, casting spinning shadows on the walls. She stepped inside, her hands shaking as she raised the light. The room looked exactly as she'd left it, except for one thing. The words asterisk, "Why did you come?" Asterisk were gone again. In their place, scrawled across the wall in uneven, shaky letters, were the words asterisk, "You finally came back." Asterisk, her stomach twisted. She turned slowly, and there, sitting on the bed, was the little girl she'd seen in the basement. Her hair hung over her face, her small hands clasped tightly around the music box. The carousel turned slowly, its melody faint and broken. The woman's voice trembled. "Who are you?" The girl lifted her head. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, her voice small but clear. "You used to live here." She shook her head, backing toward the door. "No, I didn't. I've never—" "Yes, you did," the girl interrupted, her tone soft but steady. "He made you forget." "Who?" The question hung in the air. The girl pointed toward the corner of the room. "Him." The woman turned. The shadows there thickened, gathering into a shape, tall, indistinct, the faint outline of a man. His features were blurred by darkness, but the air around him pulsed with a low hum that vibrated in her chest. He stepped forward, the floor groaning beneath his weight. "You shouldn't have come back," the voice said. It wasn't loud, but it filled the entire room. She froze, gripping the doorframe. "This house isn't yours anymore." She took a shaky step backward. "Who are you?" The shadow tilted its head. "You already know." Her throat tightened. "What do you want?" "To finish what you started." He stepped closer, and as the light flickered, she saw his face for a heartbeat, her own eyes staring back at her from a different face. The same bone structure. The same scar on her jaw. The man from the photographs. The husband. The father. The scientist who had vanished with his family. Her knees weakened. "No, that's not possible." The man smiled faintly, though his eyes were hollow. "You built this place. You locked us here." The music box slowed, its tune warping into a low, distorted hum. The girl rose from the bed and walked toward the shadow, her movements stiff, mechanical. The two shapes, child and man, began to fade, their outlines flickering like dying candlelight. The woman's phone buzzed suddenly, vibrating in her hand. She looked down. The screen flashed a message she didn't recognize. Asterisk, run. Asterisk, she bolted down the hall, her footsteps slamming against the wood. Behind her, the walls groaned, and the chandeliers crashed to the floor one by one. The house seemed to come alive, doors slamming, windows shattering, whispers filling every corner. "Stay with us," they murmured, voices layered and endless. "You belong here." She reached the front door and yanked at the handle. It wouldn't move. The hinges shrieked but held firm. Her flashlight slipped from her grasp, rolling across the floor and stopping at the piano's feet. The keys began to play again, the same broken melody, faster now, like a heartbeat. Then, through the shattered glass of the front window, she saw headlights. A car pulling up the driveway. Someone else was coming. The lights cut through the fog and landed on the house, illuminating her through the window, a pale figure standing in the doorway. But to the person outside, she wasn't alone. In the reflection of the glass, behind her, stood the Holloway family. Smiling. Waiting.